And welcome to my series, Unveiling the Secrets of Executive Presence. As a certified image professional and in my business style for life, I have the good fortune to work with some of Australia's most influential women who are committed to making a difference and in the world, but they're also not afraid to showcase their strength and courage with a powerful visual brand. These women appreciate that an authentic image makes them appear even more credible than what they may seem on paper. But as an ambitious woman, the journey to the C-suite can often be filled with insecurity, fear, judgment, and second guessing all around whether your executive presence and gravitas is going to be enough. But it is one of the most important skills for success in business, and it's also the least understood, which is why I decided to start this series. So, Unveiling the Secrets of Executive Presence provides insights into how to develop and use executive presence as a powerful tool for career advancement through interviews with some of the most accomplished women in Australia. These women are highly respected leaders in their fields who concur that executive presence is a skill that should be learned and mastered to make a very real difference, and they share how to use it and achieve success both personally and professionally, and what executive presence has meant to them. Now, today I have the very lovely pleasure of interviewing Jacqueline Berry. Jacqueline is the Director, Strategy, Portfolio and Executive Communications at the Department of Transport and Planning, where she leads 9 teams who create strategic communications and engagement for 4 ministers, the Secretary, and 8 Deputy Secretaries, delivering them to the public, the transport and planning portfolios, and more than 5,000 employees. Prior to moving to the department, Jacqueline developed deep knowledge across the transport and infrastructure sectors by consulting to industry leaders such as Downer, McConnell Dowell, Brookfield Multiplex and Lend-Lease, to name a few. Jacqueline also worked as a senior communications specialist for Metro Trains, John Holland, the Westgate Bridge and the Port of Hastings Development Authority. Jackie's speciality is being able to quickly understand the political landscape and business imperatives of a situation and then garner senior stakeholder support for smooth delivery. Wow, you have such a big role, and as we were discussing before, in a very male-dominated industry, and you are still quite a young woman, and obviously very, very courageous, and have a lot of energy behind what you do. So I'm really interested to hear a lot of things about how you've actually risen to this position and talking around the topics of executive presence. So you've done a lot of things in your life, but can you tell me the first time you realised that executive presence would be important in your career?
I think it probably was about, I'd say 4 years ago was when I really started to use it. But I think when I started consulting, which was probably around 7 years ago, that's when I realized that presence and confidence can really give you a different edge. I think I was telling you before, I used to work on construction sites, and nobody would have thought I worked on construction sites nowadays. So, I come in with the high heels and the great outfit, and, I always got a big smile on my face and having a sense of humor, and I laugh. But back then it was very serious. I had the, high vis on and the jeans and the boots, and felt like I had to be, down in the trenches with the boys, and out on the, the Westgate Bridge. I was there at, 4 a.m. or I was on the railways at 4 a.m. doing photography and all that kind of stuff. Not glamorous at all. But when I got into consulting, I had to take that experience that I learned on the ground and translate that into almost like sales and business development, so that people knew I was there to do community engagement. I was there to do the stakeholder engagement, but I was also with high class and professional C-suite type people. And you can't be sort of knock around, with the blokes on site. You've got to be a little bit more professional when you're going into those environments. But it's also because I'd been on site, I actually had the confidence to talk about what I knew about, and I had the experience working with those types of people and those types of projects, so I could bring that into what I was talking about. And so once I really felt confident with what I had and my experience, and I could talk through that and storytell, I found that my presence became a lot more important, and my brand started to grow, and everybody knew me. They were like, oh, there's Jackie, there's Jackie. I was going to events and everybody said, oh, that's Jackie. Yeah, she's famous in the industry. And, And I've only worked in it for a good 14, 15 years now. And this was about 7 years ago. So I was starting to really build my brand in that consulting frame. But then when I started as Director of Corporate Comms for the Department of Transport, probably about 4 years ago, I was asked to do a lot, and COVID hit. We had to transfer onto online calls just like this. And I was told once, Jackie, everybody can see when you're moving, you know, you on your phone, or if you're not focused on the actual screen. And so as soon as I started focusing on the screen and giving my energy to the screen and really projecting, I got this presence and everybody was just connected to me. And it was really interesting. So I think that's where I really learned you have to connect with people. Actually was through COVID, because it was all about online. It's all about how you present from the top, maybe not on the bottom. You know, we never know what was going on down there.
And it was quite an interesting period. I know I did lots and lots of different webinars where I think in all we had about 600 women connect into those over the period of time I did them with a colleague. We talked about all things communication, presence, you know, lighting, background,
Everything.
voice projection, all the little things that you have around you in terms of brand differentiation. And how do you differentiate yourself online when you could be on a screen with lots of different people, lots of different faces? So how do you stand out? So,
and I think it's sometimes it is just actually being really focused on what you're talking about and being really present and being really in the moment. That's all it is. It sounds so simple, but if you're distracted and thinking about 1,000 other things, you're not going to be present. So you can't bring that energy into that room.
totally, which so many women had that issue through COVID because they were trying to homeschool and they were trying to do a million other things and have meetings with their teams, and there was no time left for themselves. So, you know, it was very, very challenging for a lot of women. So going back in your history, you know, you mentioned to me before that you started off in fashion and hospitality, which hospitality is also my background too from many, many years ago. What were the strategies you used to try and amplify your executive presence? I mean, you mentioned personal branding before, and I always think, yes, developing a brand is really important. How do you position yourself and put yourself out there? Did you have a vision in mind as to what the Jacqueline Berry brand was to look like?
It was no vision per se, but what it actually was speaking with my family, and they said, Jack, you're a little bit unique. People don't see you as somebody who'd be out there in a construction site, and they don't see you as somebody who'd be in transport. They don't see you as someone as engineering. So people never ever really, some people didn't actually take me seriously because they were like, you know, she's looking a bit glamorous for somebody who's going to be in transport or construction. But because I had all that experience, as soon as I started talking, it was a bit of incongruence. Like, hang on, she knows what she's talking about. So I'm talking about big contracts, I'm, you know, negotiating deals. And I really love that. Like, I get really excited by that. So my passion and energy will really come through because I actually love what I do. So I think my personal brand came as, you know, always dressing really well, always looking professional, always being professional, but also having a bit of a sense of humor and being able to have a joke with everybody. And then cutting to the chase, you know, not holding back and then being in a business deal. You're in a deal, you're in there for a reason. So you'd go and do that and be direct. You know, a lot of women aren't direct, so I would be direct, but I'm not in the first instance. So the brand for me was really about working hard, being determined, and also being very resilient. So, you know, look, working through issues, I wasn't going to back down if people were, you know, going to come up against me and have conflict. I wasn't going to back down in those situations. And I just keep going and finding out different avenues or different detours and working that way. So, yeah, my brand's really been about just being myself. I know that sounds really, everyone always says just be yourself, and that can be really frustrating because people go, I don't know who I am, or you've got to go through the processes. But I think when you throw yourself into jobs, throw yourself into different roles, I didn't know where my career was going at many different points. I thought, oh, I'm going to give up here, or I'm going to do this. But when I got into government, someone said to me, also, it's about voice. So I do singing training and voice training. And so I learned that you need to, you know, slow down when you're speaking. I put myself up. I don't like public speaking, but I would always put myself up for roles which were public speaking, or I do the MC role. And as soon as I did that, people would always connect with me. And so, you know, you got to feel the fear and do it anyway and push yourself out there, out of your comfort zone. So, yeah, some of my keys have been voice training, definitely the singing's helped. The brand is not shying away from who you are and always trying to amplify that. And even if it is male dominated industry, which I work in, it's about just males are the same as females. You just connect with them like humans. You know, there's no difference. It's just that they look a little bit different to us. That's how I've always seen it. And they might know something interesting and I might know something interesting. If we connect, that's great. And then, you know, using those relationships to your best ability, that's really what I've been doing. And sometimes when you walk into a room, you've got to have that confidence and the room's got to stop. And sometimes you can do that. And if you can switch that on, that's your presence. And people know that you've walked into a room. And sometimes I don't do it. Sometimes I can't do it because I'm not in the mood for it that day. But sometimes when you're feeling really good and you've got that really good pair of heels on, I know that sounds hysterical, but if you're feeling really good when you walk in a room, people will sense it straight away. And that confidence, you don't even have to say a word, but the confidence will come through and people will actually listen.
Yeah. So let me just go back a little bit when you were talking about, you know, the need to dress well and how you've, you know, it's all about having that confidence when you walk in the room. So what sort of things did you employ, having come from a fashion background, in terms of presenting yourself visually to be able to go into those scenarios and feel really confident and be able, you know, having done the voice training and everything else, to be able to own the room, so to speak?
I had a vision of what I wanted to look like. I always loved, you know, sort of a pencil skirt. This is going to sound very funny, but my mum and I used to have conversations about, you know, suits, how they always had in the show suits, and Meghan Markle always had those beautiful long skirts, and then she'd have the little belt and she'd have a nice top. It was simple, elegant, but it also felt really good around your body. So you actually felt taller and stronger when you're wearing it. I know that sounds silly as well. And those classic, and I've always loved a classic look. So whether it's navy, black, white, with a really nice high heel, I think I don't do anything fluffy, anything frou-frou. You won't see me any, you know, sort of like puffy sleeved or anything like that. You won't see me. I'll see me in a dress, but it'll probably be quite tight and structured. Or if it's flowy, it's only in one section. So I tend to stick to more that sort of pencil skirt, top, you know, feeling really good. And if I want to be casual, I remember, I think her name was Bronwyn. She was the board director for Cochlear ear devices. And I picked her up from the airport once because someone said, can you go and pick her up and, you know, talk to her and take her to the event? And she said to me, Jackie, and the best piece of advice she gave me was, if they even say it's a casual day, never go casual. Always go that one step up. Always be just a little bit more dressed up than you think you should be. Because it does tend to stick you out just a little bit, but also you feel more confident in that room. So, and yeah, I think that's really what's been my driving force, is that nice pencil skirt, structured, but also, you know, looking after yourself, your health and well-being. So doing Pilates, going for runs, you know, eating well, getting sleep. I just came back from Gwingana and they taught us all about stress and relaxation and, you know, feeling your best. When you're feeling like that, you can give it to other people as well.
Absolutely. Well, that's all really good advice. And no, it's not silly saying that, you know, you feel really comfortable in that. I mean, how you dress is a reflection of you and your values and what you feel really comfortable in. And if what you feel comfortable in is something that's very classic and tailored, and you've got the body shape to wear it well and wear it well, and good on you for doing that in such a male-dominated environment, because I know a lot of women would really struggle with that, and they would feel that they would have to dress like the men to be accepted, which I guess is what you did when you dressed in your high-vis and hard hat and everything.
And also, yeah, I also did that I worked for John Holland for about, I think it was about 4 or 5 years, and I used to go into their corporate office and I'd always wear a shirt and pants, and I'd never wear a dress, ever. And it just didn't feel right. I was like, oh no, I've definitely got to wear a shirt. And I started wearing shirts that look like the guys' shirts. And I thought, this just doesn't feel right. And then once I figured out my style and what I wanted to do, I just didn't care what they thought, to be really honest with you. I just was in the room, and I wasn't worried about what I was wearing. I was more worried about what I was saying. I think that was more important at that point.
Do you think that's because you felt like you know, like you were projecting your true essence, so to speak? So how did you find the reaction from them? Did you get better attention from them? Was it the same? How did it impact those situations?
I felt, and I'll never forget, someone said this to me, they go, we can't believe how many people know you and how many, you know, you connect with. I felt people were more attracted to me because I was projecting that confidence, I think. And also, yeah, I was just happy. I think you know, being a confident, happy person, people like to be around that. So, but also I was projecting a professional outcome. It wasn't a, you know, flighty or, you know, I'm just wearing, oh, a nice girly dress in the office or,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
So
think that's a really positive thing for other girls to hear, you know, listen back to, because a lot of them that I speak to are very confused over, well, how do I do this? You know, this is
oh,
who I
really?
am as a person, but I feel like I can't do that because we're going to get the wrong attention. So it's really nice to hear from you that you've successfully achieved that and still being able to project that confidence. And I think that, you know, having done the voice training is a fabulous thing to have done as well. There's a
I
lot
think,
of
yeah, I was
synergy.
just going to say
Mm.
to your point there, I may have got a little bit of the wrong attention at some points, and I did used to get frustrated by it. But also, if I'm going to dress confidently and I'm going to feel confident, well, you are going to get that attention. And sometimes you've just got to, and that's what I was saying about that. I'm here to do business. You've got to show that I'm not here just to wear the dress and be here and just be quiet in a meeting. I'm here to actually say something and I've got an opinion. So I'm going to do it. And that's when the dissonance kind of comes in a little bit. They go,
Yeah,
oh, hang on.
no, look, that's great. So on that topic, what do you think are some of the misconceptions people have about executive presence? Because it's a widely used term, and there's a lot of different theories about what does that entail. And some people think it's all about, you know, what's on paper. Some people think it's all about your leadership skills and communication. Very, very rarely is the term appearance brought into that whole equation. So, where do you think it originates from? What are the misconceptions that you've heard?
Oh, that's a really good one. Because I'd say it's, for me, what I know it is credibility. So you've got to have the credibility behind you to, and you've kind of, it's a really good question. I mean, executive presence, it's not about having an MBA. There you go. I don't have an MBA, right? So I don't think it's about having an MBA. I don't think it's about, you know, which university you went to or which school you went to or anything like that. I mean, oh, I really don't believe, and I think people think they have to have everything ticked off in those buckets. I think it's more about working hard, showing up to the meetings, being present in the meetings. And someone actually said to me, they go, every single meeting you go into is a chance to change people's perception of you.
Mm.
So if you walk into a meeting and you're completely present in that meeting, those people in that meeting will remember that. And then if you keep doing it in another meeting, that's a whole new chance to do the same thing again. So as much as it can be tiring, that's executive presence. You're always showing up to a meeting, always being there. Even if you're saying one or two things, that's actually being more present in the moment than, you know, being that, you know, wearing the right dress or the outfit or that sort of thing. You need to have that to feel good about yourself, I think. But it's also about being present in the meeting and listening. I mean, listening is so important. You know, if you don't listen to what's going on in the meeting and ask questions, you're not going to be engaging in the conversation. So, yeah, the misconceptions, I think, are that you have to have all of these accreditations behind you. And to be honest with you, I don't have, I mean, I've got a lot of accreditations, but mine's been more work experience and working on the job and understanding the environment and understanding the political context of what is going on around you, and then working with your strengths and, yeah, using them to your best ability and just having fun with it. And I think having fun is really important too.
Yeah, look, that's something which a lot of people talk about actually, is having fun doing what you know you're passionate about doing. So let's go back a couple of years to the pandemic.
Yep.
And we were talking before about, you know, dressing from the waist up and, you know, what happened during that. A lot of people found and believe that it was an opportunity for them to dress down. And I know for a lot of women coming back out of that period of being locked up for 2 years and dressing more comfortably, because that word comfort was the biggest buzzword in
Mm.
that area anyway. They all just wanted to be comfortable. But it's also, they've shifted, or they did shift to being comfortable, and now coming back into this hybrid way of working and a lot more face to face. How do you feel women are presenting themselves now versus pre-COVID? Have you seen a change? Now I know you may, I don't know how many women you come across in your day-to-day interaction.
Oh, lots. We've got lots here.
Yeah.
It's a really, I think there's a bit of a generational. I mean, I was in my active wear like most people were, but on top I was, wearing the lovely top and I had a backlight, which always gave me this great glow. And everybody always used to say to me, Jackie, you look like you're glowing. I'm like, it's this backlight. It's fantastic. Which was a bit, but I would always still get dressed, do my hair, do my makeup, make sure I looked presentable. But coming out of that, everyone was wearing, around Melbourne, everybody's got a white sneaker on. I can tell you that much right now. There is not as many heels. The dresses I think that I'm seeing at the moment have a bit more of a cutout or a cut here, which I can't like I like them in their social setting, but not in a work setting. So I'm seeing this casual, relaxed sort of look, which doesn't feel kind of right when you're in a corporate office sometimes, but and I feel really uncomfortable sometimes wearing that. The flat runner at work. I literally just did my calf muscle when I was playing tennis, and I had to wear flats for the last 3 weeks, and I found it really uncomfortable because I didn't feel as on top of my game with my heels. So, but yeah, I think it's more relaxed, more calm. It's a bit more, I've got my black t-shirt on, I've got my black skirt, and I've got my white runners, so I'm very approachable and I'm very casual. But men seem to still be wearing the suit in the city. It's still the suit, it's still looking very well dressed. There's a couple of women that are doing that, but I do see a lot more casual outfits coming through, whereas pre-pandemic I think people got a lot more dressed up.
Definitely. Well, it'll be interesting to see whether it does a turnaround. I know, well, from my perspective with my clients, they do still want to look good and dress well, but they're getting frustrated as well with what they're seeing walking around the streets of Melbourne and just doing business in general, that, a lot of women are dressing down, and it's finding that safe place but then also going back to what the advice was that you were given, which was, don't worry about it, still dress well, still dress for the position you hold, because people, I think, expect that and they want that reassurance that you are in that role and you're projecting your very best at all times. So over your career, have you seen, because the concept of executive presence, started to play out a few years ago, have you seen this playing out in your field over the past few years and over your career?
I think when I got into my first executive role, that was when I really got taught about it. So I didn't really realize that it was a thing until probably about 4 or 5 years ago, when I got told, you've got to be present, you need to change the way you're speaking, you need to change your language. So some of my language was very relaxed, it was very sort of nonchalant, and I was just like, oh yeah, this, that and the other, exactly like that, versus actually speaking clearly, slowly, and articulating what I mean very clearly. That changes your executive presence, because you're well thought, you're not speaking really, really fast, you've thought through the actual process of what you're talking about, you know the outcome you want to achieve. And then the actual having presence in a room is about feeling like you're meant to be there and knowing you're meant to be there. And I think that's really important. So if you don't feel confident that you've got anything to offer in that room, sometimes I'd say don't go, because you want to feel like, actually I've got something to say here, and I actually know that I can change the dynamic, or I can actually get a really great outcome in this, so I'm definitely going to be in that room. And there were some rooms that I probably didn't feel like I should be in, but I went in to listen, and what I did in those rooms was observe the other executives and how they did it. And I think you learn from your peers and you learn from people up above and how they do come across. And we write a lot of the speeches for secretary and the ministers, and it's watching them deliver those speeches that's also given me a lot of my executive presence, to see them come out. For instance, the Premier, Jacinta Allen, she gets up on stage and she's fantastic. She will speak so clearly, so confidently, and she'll have a bit of fun while she's up there, but she gets to the point as well. So that's always been really important for me. So I hope that's kind of answered your question.
It does. Look, it is a skill, and I think you know, it's worth exploring if you are heading into those senior roles, to actually explore all areas of this whole executive presence minefield. And I say minefield because a lot of people get really bamboozled by it. Well, what am I supposed to do? What's the most important thing that I should be focusing on? So it is a whole-hearted, rounded type process, I think, anyway. And one that where voice is important, how you behave is important, you know, your values are important, how you dress is important, your grooming is important, you know, how you conduct yourself, your whole persona, you know, is really what it's all about. So having, you know, do you mentor people in your role? I imagine you have a lot of women that you actually.
I do. I have a mentor. I've met a mentee. She chose me, and she wants this woman said, "Oh, can you please mentor me?" And I said, "Absolutely, I can." And I didn't. It was the first time I've ever been asked to do it formally, and I was quite blown away. And I said to her, "Why me? You know, why do you want me?" And she said, "Oh, you're the face of DTP. You know, you're out there, you're talking, you're warm, you're kind, and people gravitate toward that warmth." And I had never really thought of myself that way. And it's just because I'm a little bit charismatic and I'm interested. But the other thing is, I'm actually interested in others. Like, I'm curious about what they've got to say. I mean, other people, you can learn so much more from them than I can from myself. And so, yes, I do mentor. I've actually mentored also a young man once. That was really interesting. He asked me loads of questions, and that was more when I was being very adventurous and I was doing big deals, and I just went for it. And he said, "I've never seen anything quite like it. You know, you're just out there, you're giving it a go, and you just throw yourself in there." And I said, "Well, that's what you got to do, isn't it? And otherwise you can't build a business. You can't sit in an office and think, oh, people are going to come to me. They're going to, you know, when you're hiding behind a computer, you can't do that. You've got to be front and center. You've got to be out there. You've got to be talking to people, and you've got to understand what's happening in your environment, and you've got to be seen, unfortunately, if that's what you want to do." Beg your pardon?
Have to be proactive.
Yeah, you have to be very proactive. So yeah, I do mentor a few people when they come and ask for me for it. And I've actually had a lot of mentors myself. So I'm not shy to say to someone, "I don't know how to do this," or I've asked about how to do leadership better. I've asked plenty of questions. I've seen a lot of women who own a room, and I've asked them, "How do you do that?" So, you know, one of my mentors, she was in a room with about 12 or 13 political businessmen, and she owned the room. No one was saying a word, no one's interrupting. She spoke so beautifully and articulately. And so I asked her to be my mentor, and she said, "Absolutely, I will." And I said, how do you do that?" And she said, "I trust myself. I've done my research. I've got an opinion on every issue that I know about or that I'm interested in. And then I take a side, and that's what I believe in. And so therefore I've got the confidence to be there." So yeah, it was really fascinating.
Yeah, that's true. You know, you never ever stop learning in whatever field you're in. I'm the same. Having been in this industry for over 20 years in my own business, but you never stop learning. There's always other people to learn from. And goodness me, this whole pandemic that we've been through, this extraordinary situation, is probably one of the biggest learning curves I think I've gone through anyway. So, Jacqueline, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
I think I'd like to be a CEO. I just don't know of what. No, I mean, I'd love to be an executive director or I really do like strategic advisory. Someone else actually asked me what my next step was, and I was thinking, do I go into politics? I just love business. I've always loved business. I find it really fascinating. I find economics really interesting. I find anything commercial fascinating. And then how we're communicating that to people is really interesting. So yeah, I don't know, either running my own business, maybe a political advisor, or somewhere, you know, running a company and, you know, really challenging myself into my next role. So I do get bored very easily, unfortunately. So anything that's got a good challenge on its head would be really good. But yeah, something challenging, or else I'd be on holiday over in Europe. Who knows?
That sounds really attractive. Oh, look, well, thank you. It's been an absolute delight and pleasure talking to you. Certainly someone who is in a younger age bracket, who is out there making huge waves and doing amazing things in your role. So congratulations, you know, on everything that you've done to date. and I will be watching your career path with great interest, I should say. So yeah, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add to other women that might be listening to this?
Always, I think for me, it's believe in yourself and your own. This is going to sound so funny, your own vibe. So you really have to vibe with yourself in order to feel that confidence. So and even if you don't know where the next path's going to lead, just have faith that something will come along. You'll choose the right path, because I've had many forks and I've gone, oh, do I go that way? Do I go that way? Whichever way you go, it's going to be fine. But you just got to back yourself in and go, yep, that's a decision I've made and that's what I'm going to do. So and I think with executive presence, just put yourself out there. That's my advice.
Fabulous advice. Well, thanks, Jacqueline, very much. Thoroughly enjoyed having a chat to you today.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it.